Good evening, I'm Jim Wright, and for this episode of Georgia on Location, I have returned to Howard's Waterfall Cave, which gets its name from a stream that flows over the entrance to the cave. One of the reasons that I returned was to get better video of the Cherokee syllabary and other historical artifacts that are there, and two, to introduce some friends to the wonders of caving. If you want to see the first video on this cave, please click the link in the screen above, and you will see Steve Davis, a director of the Southern Cave Conservancy, take us through the cave and talk about the history of the Cherokee writing, also known as the syllabary, and the mining of saltpeter. The SCCI is a nonprofit group that helps protect the natural state of caves and educates the public on ecological importance of caves and their ecosystems. Saltpeter will be used in the Civil War to make gunpowder. In this video, Steve's son Kyle will lead us through Howard's Waterfall Cave. So let's put on our helmets, turn on our lamps, and take a tour of Howard's Waterfall Cave. Here we go. Here we are at the entrance to the cave. Howard's Waterfall Cave is a horizontal cave that requires you at some points to bend down and crawl on your hands and knees. Some places require a full belly crawl. However, a good portion of this cave is you walking around a good bit. The entrance is about a 5-minute crawl until you get to the first junction. One way you go to the historical stuff like the syllabary, and the other direction you can go to the rest of the cave. We're going to go to the historical stuff first. Please enjoy Kyle and myself talking about the syllabary and other historical items. The last time I was in this cave was November of 23, and because October and November are usually our drier months, the cave was pretty dry. This time, however, it being spring right after a rainstorm, there was a lot of water in the cave, like this water falling out of the cave ceiling. What you are seeing is the Cherokee syllabary, or the remains of the Cherokee syllabary, and people that spray painted over it. You cannot clean the spray paint off without removing the syllabary, so that is why the spray paint has not been removed.
So syllabary was invented in the early 1800s, and it was made by Sequoyah, who invented the language. And some Cherokee Indians came in here and wrote this in what I'm told is the early or mid 1860s. And we are not told, we don't know what it says. The Cherokee Nation does. They've had some translators here to translate it, but they will not recite it because it's, as far as they know, some sort of incantation. And from what I believe they have said is that it is written in reverse so that the souls on the other side of the rock can actually read it instead of us. It's meant for the souls on the other side. And it is based a lot off of the English language. You can see there's like some K's and some J's in there, some upside down A's. And that squiggle is a paragraph separator. And there's actually a gate here.
This is a distinctly Cherokee right there. That one is distinct.
I didn't know that. But there's a gate here, to make sure that people like Brian here can't write over it.
These two as well.
Were they made specifically for the Cherokee language? Like
the syllabary?
Well, I mean those like this specific one and like these markings.
I mean, similar to like, I don't want to say similar to like Chinese, but each of these is a sound, and you put those sounds together, and then you would get a word. Or they call it a diphthong, some linguistic word. I don't really know what that means. But he did it as a way of assimilation.
The ammonium nitrate in the saltpeter to make gunpowder. And they actually lowered the level here of this entire room by about 4 feet. Right here on this wall, there's this black line right here that goes all the way across, and you'll see it prevalent through this whole area. That's where the old floor used to be. So they mined that much saltpeter here and took it out of the cave and turned it into gunpowder. Also, there's some more evidence of this. On this wall right here, you can see in my shadow, there's these black marks. That is where they would shove coal oil or whale oil soaked rags up in the crack while they were working. And that's all the soot from those rags. Some other ways we know, right here on this wall, right here in the shadow, on this wall right here, there's R.F. Bennett. Under that, in quotes, Standard and Carlisle. Carlisle's in Carlisle, Georgia. There's Carlisle, GA. R.F. Bennett was an editor for the Standard newspaper in the late 1860s, or late 1860s, 1880s, somewhere around there. And he wrote an article about coming miles back into a cave to this point, which is only about 600 feet into the cave. And he describes his name there. Yeah. There's also E.W. Garrison, with the date 1853. So R.F. Bennett was an editor for a while. But that 1853 is an actual date, and they came in together and scribed their names. But you'll notice that it's way far above where I can inscribe easily. And that's because they came in when the floor was, that was at their chest height. So they came in when the floor was that much higher. And
what's the black 1853?
probably a similar where they wrote it in like carbide or chalk with their torch or something. There's also on this wall right here in my shadow, there's tally marks, and that's how many bushels of saltpeter they would take out of the cave. And they actually mined all the saltpeter that they could, and they dug this hole to see if there was more saltpeter down here at the bottom. And there was none, so they stopped mining in here. And that was a main issue for the South in the Civil War, is that they didn't have enough gunpowder to continue.
This room is called the art room because the mud building in this room is sculpted by cavers into art. I have not been in this room because it is a pretty tight squeeze. I could probably get through it, but I just don't feel like getting that tight of a squeeze. But the boys could easily fit. In a cave, you're not supposed to touch the ceiling or the formations because our hands can destroy them. But there are caves and parts of caves that are deemed sacrificial, in that they are being sacrificed in order for people to touch them. The art room is one of those examples. Howard's Waterfall Cave is a great first cave to experience, but you will need a good pair of knee pads to truly have a fun time, because you are on your hands and knees a good bit. Please like and subscribe. This is Jim Wright with Georgia on Location at Howard's Waterfall Cave. Have a great day, and bye.